some looting, people rooting either side away. Maybe a murder that I heard of, they try to justify the dread. Makes me wanna turn around, drag myself right back in bed. I just can't comprehend how we came to this end.
This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Good morning, friends. Good morning to you too, meticulous magpie. Boom! We are live. Welcome to Blockchain Booze number 97. We are 97 weeks straight, which is pretty freaking epic. We're streaming live not only on Lunar Crush right now, but we're also replaying on Blockchain Radio afterwards. If you're watching on one of the streams, like on YouTube, like here's Coop. Ryan Coop, you got to come backstage to meet.blockchainbooze.io and come hang out with us. That was weird. The thingy didn't pop up, did it?
It did.
Yeah.
Oh, it did for you guys?
Yeah.
Computer's being really weird, so I hope everyone sees this, or we'll just have a cool hangout session and play it later. No, I see everyone here.
When was episode 1?
What was that?
When was episode 1?
March of not last year, but the year before. So we went into lockdown in Southern California and we were like, what the hell are we going to do with our lives? Right? Like all we do is work. Let's hang out with our work people in the afternoons, like once a week, and have a drink. And so we decided to do this Zoom meeting thing. And that was the first one. And then it grew and it got to the point where there's like 100 people on Zoom and we couldn't even get through introductions, even if we did it. So then we started changing the formats and doing the whole thing.
It was always centered around Web3.
It's always been Web3. It's blockchain and booze. It's started with talking crypto, blockchain, DeFi, NFTs. Even back then we were talking NFTs. There just wasn't as many of us nerds back then. But I want to first and foremost welcome you, Andy, to the show, and welcome back Ashley, aka Board Becky, to the show. Thanks for joining us again.
I'm pumped to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be able to meet Ashley as well.
Always a pleasure.
I know. I think that there's a thing that there can be a backfiring that happens when Ashley's also on the show, because I think people are more excited to hang with her than to be on Blockchain Booze. So,
You're always a blast, Alon. I'm here for you.
Thank you. I think the audience is pumped too. Everyone who is back there on meet.blockchainbooze, feel free to throw questions in the QA. Andy, we got to start with you because you're new to the crew here. Although we're gonna have to have you back and hang more often. But tell us about your background. Tell us. For those of you that don't know, Andy runs or is the president of VeeFriends. So you got to tell us about VeeFriends and how you came to be head VeeFriend.
Yes, president of VeeFriends. I'm the president of VeeFriends because I've worked with Gary for the last 8 years. I oversaw his media and content team at VaynerMedia, Team Gary V, as they call themselves, overseeing everything that is related to Gary's brand. And so when it came time for Gary to launch his own NFT project, he asked if I wanted to be on board, and gladly said yes. And here we are today. 9 months into VeeFriends.
That's yeah, it's amazing, and it's been amazing growth. I mean, in hindsight, it's one of those things that makes perfect sense because Gary V, I think I mentioned this when he was on here and stuff, but like I remember him talking about YouTube being a thing and people laughing at him when I was working in like 2008, 2007 at MySpace. Right. So like I was working at MySpace. It was the most traffic website on the internet. And this goofy dude was talking about how people are going to make a living off of YouTube. And everyone's like, what an idiot. That'll never happen. People can't even watch a movie on the internet. You know?
You can read exactly related to that topic specifically. You can go to Amazon and look at the reviews of his book, Crush It. And there are people literally laughing at him and making fun of him because he said exactly that people are going to make money on YouTube.
Well, it was this time and place where like if you were into it, you thought at least like it's inevitable, right? Like you just thought it had to happen. And people were like, if it's not YouTube, it's going to be some other video thing, right? And like you thought it was inevitable, kind of like us and crypto, except for everyone is still laughing at us or depends on the person.
It's why VeeFriends was so painful, because there's still a good amount of people that missed out on it, even though they know that Gary has called things and been right about future trends. I mean, something that I've been repeating a lot is that VeeFriends took 21 days to sell out. You know, most projects are minting and selling out in a day. VeeFriends took 21 days.
Well, you're saying most projects, but you have to remember that we're like, if we're gonna like analogize it to back in the day, right? It was like TechCrunch was the website for tech companies back in the day, and if it happened in the tech world and it was on TechCrunch, that was like the elite cream of the crop, whatever. So to most people's eyes, every tech company raised millions of dollars. Every single person was super successful, right? Like there are lots of campaigns and people who aren't doing it, but the ones we talk about, the ones we know about, you're totally right. Like it either sells out in a day or two, or it drags on forever. It just, kind of dwindles away. 28 days is a long freaking time for it to go. And I wish I had participated back then. I know some of my friends were telling me to, and I missed it as well, because I was going, oh, he's like that dude from the internet and the YouTube stuff and all that. Like, I dismissed it as not being part of the cool kids club at the beginning. And as it went on, constantly pointing at VeeFriends as an example of how you should do it right. So very, very cool that you got to be a part of it. Ashley, I want to, we'll definitely got to catch up on Fame Ladies and everything else going on, of course. But I know you're a hardcore VeeFriend fan and holder. You bought like 100 of the books or something. I might be exaggerating. I might be under exaggerating. I don't remember. But tell the audience, I guess, what got you excited about VeeFriends.
Yes. Well, I'm really excited to have a platform to talk about VeeFriends and Gary Vee, because usually I feel like I inappropriately fangirl when people are trying to learn about other things. And I am just talking about Gary Vee. And I bought 120 books, so you were close. But I'm a fan. I was introduced to Gary Vee. I heard of him like some time ago. I come from a real estate background. So I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a realtor. I've seen Gary on the speaker circuit, and frankly, in the beginning, I didn't really care for him and his style. But eventually the first time I saw him in person, I realized there's something here with this guy. I'm kind of just need to get over the bravado stuff. Which I actually now quite enjoy. So I take all that hate back. But I also come from a background, like I am still very involved in like leadership in real estate in terms of the industry. I sit on boards, and we've been talking about environmental scans, and the theme of blockchain for transactions and kind of reducing the middleman, creating efficiencies, and creating a more consumer friendly system is something that, you know, we've been thinking about for some time from an industry perspective. And I've always looked at it as like, yes, disruption, but I've seen it kind of from a positive lens and seen it more through the thinking that like innovation is around the corner. I want to be a part of it. I want to learn about it. I want to understand what the opportunities are. How do we get the industry kind of on board? And then of course the cryptocurrency side of, you know, transacting real estate is very interesting too. And so that's kind of like the cap that I was wearing when I started hearing Gary Vee on his podcast, which I listen to pretty regularly, start talking about his NFT project. So I knew it was an area that I wanted to understand more. I had learned sort of about NFTs early 2021, like January, February, through Clubhouse chatter. And I didn't really get it at the time. I didn't understand the value. I sort of understood the technology, but I didn't understand why people were spending money on like celebrity drops, for example. Like, you know, I didn't get to, it didn't resonate, didn't click at the time. And so when Gary started talking about VeeFriends, to your point, like Gary has always had his finger on the pulse with a lot of these things and consumer trends and where things are going. You know, prior to my NFT rabbit hole, which I went straight down with the ADD, like just hardcore. I was like straight up addicted to TikTok, and I was TikToking. I was doing all the things, and I really enjoyed it. And you know, everything that he had kind of preached about consumer behavior, like I'm like, it's all there. He understands it. I don't think he'd be jumping in so big time unless he really believed in it. I had listened enough to him about his, like, I understood the context of his history to understand his ideas around IP and building something out, and knowing that he had this background in like collectibles and kind of understanding some of the nuances related to that and future value. And then, of course, going to VeeCon, I was like, I definitely want to go to VeeCon. And for those of you listening, the VeeFriends NFTs are also access to this 3-year conference that Gary's putting on. And so I just felt like this was a safe and interesting leap into learning about NFTs with the first NFT I purchased. So I minted 2. I ended up buying 3 more on secondary. I wish I minted more. Frankly, it took me forever to figure out how to buy cryptocurrency. I'm in Canada, so like I followed all of Gary's steps, and like there were still some hiccups because like Coinbase wasn't compatible for me in terms of an exchange at the time.
At what point did you decide that you were like, okay, I'm going to buy VeeFriends? Was it like off break? Gary said he's launching a project, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go, or did you take time to a little more understand the concept of VeeFriends?
I think like I definitely understood the concept of VeeFriends as I leaped in, but I didn't understand the bigger picture of the NFT environment at all. Like I had never looked on OpenSea. I had never stepped into NFT Twitter. I had never been on the Discord. I kept hearing him talking in all his live chats, like, get on the Discord. And I was like, what the hell is the Discord? Right? Like, so I was still very green that way. It took a while. I don't remember exactly how long. I think part of this also, it just coincides with that period of time last year where crypto was like just increasing in value so fast. And that was the other part that was intriguing, but also the scary side.
It was a wild ride for us when we started putting out all this content on trying to educate people how to buy Ethereum and how to set up a MetaMask wallet and all this stuff. Probably 3 weeks, 21 days before launch. From that time, Ethereum went from like 3,000 to 4,200 and hit an all-time high right when we launched. So a backstory there is that we every 2 days had to update the back end pricing on our mint prices because ETH was going up $300 every 5 hours.
You know,
it almost
really,
got in the way. Sorry, go.
It was
no,
difficult.
just a random interesting thought that I've been seeing now is that NFTs, probably because of the sort of mainstream acceptance and, you know, guys like Gary Vee and the Bored Apes and different groups like that, like because of the more mainstream user base they have versus a crypto native user base, at least to begin with, or at least the mix, I've been noticing the NFTs have been more lining up with the dollar value more than they have the ETH value. So it's interesting that you guys sort of priced it in dollars, so you had to adjust the prices in ETH, because most NFT projects, I shouldn't say NFT, but most crypto projects where there's like crypto natives, they're just thinking of the amount of ETH. They like, if the ETH goes up, ETH goes down, they don't think to change a price.
I think over time it's become more predicated on dollars, but I still think there are some projects that think in ETH. But we were thinking in dollars because we had rooted our pricing on VCon tickets.
Yeah.
We were thinking, okay, what is a ticket for the next 3 years to a mega conference? That was the value that we were going to put out as a proposition to why you would buy VeeFriends.
Yeah,
and then of course, right after VeeFriends, Ethereum tanked. It hit like 1,700 after 3 weeks earlier being 4,200.
That's not tanking. I should knock on wood and all that stuff. But yeah, that's crazy. That's the crypto roller coaster that people are unfortunately used to, but which is why we all kind of get weird and hardened, and it's not healthy probably, but it's just the way this crypto world works. Like,
I think it is healthy because it makes you check your moral compass and principles on what you're in it for.
That's true. I think it's really just, you know, it's hard for people coming in. Like, so going back to that, right? Like, Ashley, did ETH price, you know, fluctuating that much in the last couple of weeks before spending US dollars and buying ETH and spending it and stuff like that, did that affect your decision making? Did it make it more scary?
Yeah, at the time it did, because I was not crypto native at all. So I didn't understand. I was pleased to see it actually coming down. It made me feel more comfortable and there was also like limits to how much I could buy at any given time, and transfer and all of that stuff. So it did matter. And the VeeFriends prices were not cheap, right? Like I know they probably sold at a lower value than they could have if everything had gone right. But like, I minted, so they did the Dutch auction. I none of the core, like the lowest valued NFTs were remaining. So I ended up buying some slightly more rare ones, which meant I needed more ETH, right? So just getting it. And then eventually, like, I bought a couple off the secondary market, fortunately quite quickly. The fourth one I bought with WETH offers. Like, and I was just throwing the maximum amount.
Offers are underrated.
Oh, big time. And but it was also based on what I was able to transfer and buy in ETH at the time. I was at my complete max, right? So the ETH value at that time really mattered. And I would expect that was probably similar for a lot of people, because a lot of people had just been onboarded into crypto. So, and the risk and you know, all of that is, and trying to pitch it to your partner that, yeah, I'm buying this really wonderful piece of art, you know, for X amount of dollars. And I'm in Canadian, so it was, you know, more.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite VeeFriend that you have out of the four?
It's hard for me to choose. My very first one was a very rare daring dragonfly. And that holds a special place in my heart because it's my first NFT. And I did opt for it because I'm kind of trying to justify what I'm doing and why am I picking what, you know, of what was left. And like, a daring, it feels very daring what I'm doing. So I like really emotionally like tied myself to that that sort of trait or whatever. But my second mint was actually a spec. I probably don't like it as much, but I like that it's a spec, and I like that I minted it.
Spectacular.
And then I did sell. This is the funny part. Like, I ended up buying some apes afterwards because I couldn't afford any more VeeFriends.
Hold on.
I need to
Here we
click.
go.
Oh, this is, yes, Becky.
I like how
So-
it's hiding Andy's face. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah. So, you know, Becky was my first ape, but I ended up buying several more. I sold 2 of them. I have 2 remaining, and I had 2 that I bought, and I bought them because I couldn't afford any more VeeFriends. And the apes were really like, again, I was maxed out on ETH, and I was looking at them as ways to get more VeeFriends because I realized I wanted to eventually sell some, and I didn't think I would sell the ones I had bought, right? So that was the funny thing. But after I sold 1 ape, I ended up buying an epic authentic anaconda. It's not my most rare, but I really like it, and it's by far the most expensive NFT I've ever bought. So that one's kind of up there in my top 2, my first one and that one. And I don't know, I just had the like green FOMO, and I liked, again, the authenticity thing. I was like really trying to be mindful about what I picked. We'll see. I chose it over a gift goat. There's some regret, but whatever.
At least you played the game.
I did.
I wish I had bought my VeeFriend sometime during the time that everyone was talking about buying the books. And that's one of the reasons why I went and did it, because it's probably, for me also, probably the most expensive NFT I ever bought, because I have NFTs that are worth, well, I have an ape, so that's worth more, right? So, but I think that, you know, spending that kind of ETH took some real thought and conviction, and realizing over time, I mean, having Gary on the show and meeting so many of the community members and going, holy shit, this community is insane and awesome.
It's the best.
And yeah, it really is. Just also, yeah, you're right about the good vibes too. Like good, just.
I mean, honestly, it's I do a lot working with Gary. He's very ambitious, and I'm very grateful for my role working with him. But I never try to take for granted his community. It's honestly the best community you could ever ask for when you think about trying to build a digital community online. Everyone is kind, generous, entrepreneurial, creative, and it's super inspiring to be able to try and feed back value to them.
I think it's also pretty radical and amazing in this day and age and time, where, like, I think there was a certain percentage of us that got to live on the internet all day long as part of our jobs and stuff like that. But really only in the last 2 years, I think we've talked about it a bunch of times in different contexts, but like in the last 2 years, because of COVID and everyone working from home and the number of people who are kind of living, like there's people who I know are extremely busy at work all day long, but I still see them tweeting all throughout the day and stuff, right? Like that really, you couldn't do that a couple of years ago because everyone was sitting in their cubes at their offices and whatever, getting their work done with other people looking over their shoulders. And it just wasn't a part of the culture. Like you would feel like you wouldn't tweet because you'd be like, oh shit, my coworkers will see I'm not working. Now it's just.
Do you think COVID's been a multiplier of the growth of
1,000%, like by probably 5x. Like we probably leaped forward between 5 and 10 years in terms of adoption for crypto in these years.
I had a really interesting experience with sports cards. So before I was into NFTs, Gary got me into sports cards. In early 2020, during COVID, I spent all my time on eBay and sports cards land because I didn't have much else to do. And it was super fun to be educated, go on to eBay, research these prices. And it was very similar to NFTs. Right after I got off of sports cards, I went into NFTs. The problem is I was so excited to buy and sell and trade NFTs when in hindsight, all I needed to really do is find the ones I liked and go to sleep for the next year.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing that you kind of learn the hard way in crypto cycles if you were around before, right? So I joked with people that I would have some FOMO purchase of crypto or some random shitcoin or whatever you want to call it, altcoin, at midnight. one night on a weekday, and I'd wake up the next morning and I'd be like, I'm a fucking genius. And then I'd drive to work, and by the time I got to an hour-long drive, I'd check the price and I'm an idiot. And then I'd get home from work that day and I'm a genius again. And like, that's how fast the movement was working in those things. Here, it's actually a little bit slower, but still pretty damn similar. Like you could look at the floor of some NFT in the morning, and it can look like you're a genius. And then you look at night and you go, okay, you know what, maybe I will list one of those. Then you look at night and it's gone down by 30, 40, 50%, right? Or even more. But the interesting kind of thing you learn from that is that the real projects with the real communities and the real, if not roadmaps, but like you meet the people, right? It's one of the reasons why I do blockchain booze, like, is for the selfish reason of like, oh, I got to meet Board Becky, who took over Fame Lady Squad. And now I get to know, is Fame Lady Squad something that I want to hold for the next forever? Because that's the way I think. And you learn from crypto communities and things like that, that like, it's pretty easy to see the projects that are going to just completely fail. The ones that are successful are harder to pick, but if you pick 10 of them and one of them is successful, you'll make up for it, right? It's just sort of the early stage venture capital approach to participating. But like, if you're having fun along the way, then you win no matter what. And that's what got me especially excited with VeeFriends, and got me especially excited with Fame Ladies, because my daughter got so stoked on Fame Ladies, and then the roller coaster ride of everything that happened afterwards, we've been through on the show, but we should touch on a little bit, was just, for us, it was like pure, like I was pissed, right? Because like, I never get pissed at stuff like that. I'm not that guy, but I was pissed like for my daughter, because it was like the first NFT campaign she was totally stoked on, because an all girl one, you know, like, and we got a bunch of them. And then, yeah, Coop said, shout out to Fame Ladies and Boss Beauties. But then, you know, you guys taking over the whole fun of the whole thing, and then kind of getting to hang out and watch it unfold in real time made it one of those things that now I'm like way more stoked on it than I could have ever been. Right. So that whole journey and roller coaster, and I'm sure that I'm going to love VeeFriends even more after VCon, and getting to see everyone and hang out with everyone. And I think that's going to be so much fun. By the way, the reason I put this on here is because I heard, you know, through the grapevine that Board Becky is going to do an acoustic set somewhere at VCon. I don't know. That's just what I heard. But can't wait for that. That's going to be exciting. Yes, Daniel, who just posted that I should be coming to ETH Denver. I'm just trying to figure out the timing of the days I'm going to go. That's going to be fun. But Ashley, can you give everyone the sort of short saga of Fame Ladies? I can also chime in, but I think you know it better.
Yeah, so the very short version is this project launched back mid-July. It was the first all-female generative PFP project of its kind. And so because of that, there was a lot of excitement and hype in the marketplace. And you know, there was a lack of representation and diversity in the art in particular at the time. It was also positioned as the first all-female team in the NFT space. So marketer, developer, artist, etc. And so it sold out immediately. The founders made 1.5 million US, like big hit, and then slowly started to kind of you know, lose steam, and there was some sentiment about the team kind of being a bit MIA. And it was ultimately discovered that the founders were actually men, you know, positioning themselves as women to take advantage of, you know, the marketplace. And the unfortunate thing was there were so many people like you, Alon, who bought in because they really believed in the idea behind it. It was a lot of people's first NFT given the time in the marketplace, and also a lot of men who bought NFTs and gifted and onboarded women in their lives, like girlfriends, wives, mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, etc. And so for a lot of these women who got into this space, very exciting. It was their first NFT and quickly learned like it was all shit. And
Well, welcome to crypto. Unfortunately, the first one.
yeah, and it just, I think for many people felt like a very personal exploitation, very different than other sort of quote unquote rug pulls that, where the founders just go MIA. It just, I think for many, it really impacted trust and desire to be involved in the NFT space. And so we really were hoping, just as communities, myself, NFT Ignition, Danielle Davis, and some others from our team, originally we just got together and said, hey, let's do something. Maybe we can elevate the community by creating an NFT that we can give back to them, just to kind of lift their spirits and say, not everyone's terrible. This is a great space, etc. I'm trying to make this the short version, but within 2 days, we ended up with the smart contract for the project. And my whole life is looking very different now. So, I am the owner of the smart contract, and we did like a relaunch, and, very, very fortunate. Boss Beauties and Boring Stone both donated ETH to our project, which really helped put us in give us a foundation to work with, because it's been very volunteer driven, and also, quite frankly, really affirmed this idea that being here and this comeback and takeover mattered, really trying to take the power back, create a new narrative, create a story that people believe in and a story that people want to support, and having that community, real, tangible support really, really mattered. So here we are in January or February now, and things are looking really positive. We launched a podcast. We're really looking to empower women in Web3.
had to throw that up. Sorry, I gotta
Yeah.
figure out change it up somehow so that your
I
it
love
doesn't
the
go over your
baklava.
face every time. Here, cover my face with it.
The baklava frame ladies are so dope.
They're so cool. So that's
They
a
are-
derivative that was done by someone from our team or from our communities. Geeky Girl, she has a team of artists, and that's featured on one of the Boring Stone NFTs, which is just so badass. Love it.
See,
Yeah.
and then see, it's not a total rumor. If you can see that, it says here. Maybe I can change the view. See, board Becky's secret set at VCon. There you go. See, I didn't make that up.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't make it up today. I did make it up.
Yeah.
And there is Frankie Fame, my daughter's favorite Fame lady. But okay, so I didn't mean to totally derail with that. I just
No, it's all
the name of that file. The name of that file, by the way, is Fame Lady Squad Kicks Ass. So that's why it showed up when I was searching for Fame Ladies, and so I had to throw it up.
That's awesome. Can I mention something, because I don't want to forget, and it really ties back to this whole conversation about VeeFriends. So many of the people that stepped up initially to support Fame Lady Squad were VeeFriends, and a lot of people who started in NFTs in VeeFriends. We now are working with a production company for our podcast. The owner of that company is
Show the podcast. What tell everyone where to download it.
It's called From the Blockchain. It's on all streaming platforms. If you go to at @fame_ladies on Twitter, you'll see a link with all our links. So you'll find it there. But yeah, Steven from our production company, he's an OG VeeFriend. He right away came to us, how can I help? Did a bunch of pro bono work for us to get things set up and launched. Data, who's another one of the leaders with the team, he's an OG VeeFriend, and a lot of the connects that we brought in early on with, purely volunteer driven, people were not getting paid, all from the VeeFriends community, so many of them that really just wanted to support our initiative to kind of make this all work. So I got to shout out that community, because it was instrumental in helping things work on our end. So it's been awesome. 1000%.
I've seen so many folks that come through here or that I've met in the NFT space in the last year, and so many of them have been onboarded by VeeFriends, which is a big reason why I got so excited on the community. By the way, Coop, thank you for doing that. Just shared some of the links to your Twitter account for Fame Ladies and to the podcast and everything. So if you're not on Meet.Blockchain Booze, if you're still on Twitter on Lunar Crush's feed, I know there's about 1,000 of you there. Come hang out with the rest of us here so you can get these links. And if you want, you could turn on your camera when we're all done and hang with some of the crew at the tables if you'd like. So, I think it's to me, it's so exciting because it's like one, I shouldn't say like old school, but like somebody who's been in the online social media marketing world, launching businesses and doing things, putting together an NFT, NFT project, and then Fame Ladies, which is sort of a brand new project that came out of nowhere that turned out to be an epic crypto story, sort of scam turned into something real. Which, what's crazy is that's not really the first time that's happened in crypto. Like, people have taken dead projects, scam projects, or like mistakes and turn them into real things because of the community that gathered around it, right? It's really, really, really kind of crazy how it all turned out. But sorry, I was reading a comment. It was a good one. So
What was it?
What? Oh, it was somebody talking shit about us chilling too much, which is funny because I think that the interesting
Buy
thing
VeeFriends. It's a good idea.
Yeah, well, what I will say is that there was the disclaimer of not financial advice and all that stuff at the beginning. But what I will say about participating in crypto for many years and then doing the show now for almost 2 years, hanging out with people and having fun, is that like, the number one thing you just have to do is participate, hang out, and do the things that are fun for you. And this industry has a way of taking care of you. And if it doesn't become your full-time job, that's fine. You still have a full-time job. That's great. But you're going to be, I say this very, very often, but if you participate and learn, 5 years from now, you will be first in line for the next job you do want to get, or next year, or whatever, because it's sort of a part of everything you do now. I think that if you've been in this space long enough, you've seen enough people go from like, what the hell are you doing? To wait, are you still doing that Bitcoin thing? What is that Bitcoin thing? To like, oh, dude, you're still doing that scam thing? Like, it went from like, I don't even know what that is. Now I know what it is, but why are you doing it? To like, dude, that's the whole thing is a scam. To all of a sudden people leaning in like, what coins should I be buying, bro? And it's like, wait, but like, that's the trajectory of what has happened. And it's not just like amongst friends from high school. And it's not just amongst like random, people in different worlds. It's the same way, whether you're like a hardcore tech VC person, or you are a person who just, grew up like me in the back of a shop that rebuilt auto parts, right? Like there's really like you don't have to have some technical know-how or some secret, sauce to participate in this space as of yet. I think that there are some there's some of that crony stuff going on, but that sort of happens everywhere. But still, in this space, you could come off the street, you could participate and have fun and learn and get into it all. So if you don't like my shilling, go away. It's fine. You could, or just come hang out and come up on stage on most episodes where I throw the link out and you can tell me what we should be talking about. So I do want to talk about like the we've been sort of fanboying about community and building and the things that make both of these things very special, right? But what I do want to think about is that this community, at least VeeFriends, existed pre-NFTs, right? Maybe it wasn't VeeFriends community, but it was Gary V's community. There was his followers on his podcast, his email list, and all the places that exist before. Now, other than a ticket to the event, what sort of technology and NFTs are, or what sort of technology are the NFTs enabling that are making it sort of different and making it maybe able to grow that community more, amplify the efforts of the community? Like what sort of things, enticed NFT participation versus signing up to just an online subscription fan club or something?
Yeah, there's 33 different access characters is what we call them. Becky mentioned one, which is Gift Goat. Gift Goat is a token where you receive 18 additional gifts comprised of a physical item and an NFT. So 36 gifts, a physical item and an NFT, 6 times a year for the next 3 years. There's also 32 other access tokens to Gary. There's brunch bears. So 10 other individuals are going to go have brunch with Gary in New York City in March. There's Gone Fishing Fish, which you're going to go fishing with Gary in the Hudson River. Those were comprised of, honestly, things that Gary wants to spend his time doing, but also that he knows that he could bring value in having fun with his community around. Mentor Meeting Mongoose is 3 hours, you and Gary in his offices in New York City, talking about anything you want to talk about, NFTs, business. But what's really cool, like for example, Mentor Meeting Mongoose, the individual that bought that NFT is going to redeem his access experience to jam with Gary for 3 hours. He's going to get a lot of insight into business, marketing, entrepreneurship, NFTs, whatever he wants to talk about. Then he can sell it on the secondary market, recoup all the money that he paid for the first time around. And then the second person will probably be able to do the same thing, which is use that experience to jam with Gary and then potentially make income off of it outside of the insight and strategies that he got from hanging out with Gary. And that was when we brainstormed VeeFriends. Aside from what is VeeCon, what is the value of VeeCon, it was how can we really derive access and utility around Gary and the value that he brings his community members. And, Taylor Swift, everyone can, and many of her fans would want to buy some merchandise from her. But really, you want to be able to go to the studio with her and have a once-in-a-lifetime experience that money couldn't buy. Yeah. And I think deriving that value from NFT technology is where we see the future going.
I think pre getting into the crypto space, the company that I built was to build technology for crowdfunding platforms, on online investment platforms. But the online investment side of it wasn't really legally ready yet. The SEC still really isn't great about it, but at least it's better than it was back then. But when we launched, so we ended up doing tons of campaigns for people just doing fundraising stuff, raising money for charities and things like that. And around the same time, we did a couple different campaigns for celebrities. One was for Eva Longoria and one was for Avril Lavigne. And what was really funny was that Eva Longoria had probably 10x the number of followers. And she got almost no traffic to her campaign. Like no matter how much she shared it, what she said, she couldn't raise money. And the money was being raised for like inner city schools or something like that, right? She raised maybe a couple $1,000s. Like, it was embarrassing to the point where they stopped sharing it and they took it down.
It's depth versus width, like Becky has a really engaged audience because she spends time and she gives a fuck. And even if she only has 30,000 Twitter followers, those 30,000 have a lot of depth and emotional connection compared to someone who has 500,000, but no one actually cares and values what Becky said.
And that person, by the way, is constantly shilling stuff, by the way, just like me, right? So, but what's interesting is that she shared that. Then Avril Lavigne, who had about 1/10 the number of followers, shared something. She immediately raised like $10,000, like in an instant. But what we realized was that the reason why she raised $10,000 in an instant and then it like almost died was that even though she did have a much more engaged following and they participated, she created a reward for her crowdfunding campaign for Children's Hospital. The first 1,000 people to give her $10 were getting a signed headshot. So she sold 1,000 of them in a second. And then she struggled raising any money at all. And then she added another 1,000 headshots to the mix, and boom, it happened again. And what you realize is that even if somebody wants to participate and loves someone, wants to do something for a good cause and whatever,
You need some sort of access.
People want something in return. I don't like to use the word selfish, because like, you know, you are donating money to Children's Hospital and you're getting a picture in return. That's not really like a selfish thing, but people want some reciprocation, want something. And, you know, I think that especially back then, it was just the beginning of sort of unique merch. Like bands had to figure that out later, and brands and products had to figure it out later, because like people stopped buying CDs, and they had to start making money going on tours. They didn't make money off of music anymore, so they had to come up with more creative things. And celebrities had to do those things. But it is interesting, because what you're enabling here is a version of that, but on steroids, right? A version of that that's tradable, that's transferable, that you can sell, that you can hold, that you can divide. Like I'm assuming, I think I heard that, you know, you hold a VeeFriend, you're going to be dropped a ticket to the conference, right? You know,
VeeFriend, if you bought a VeeFriend, you bought 4 NFTs, because each ticket to the conference is going to be an NFT.
Are they going to drop them all at once though? Or are you going to get one before this year and then you'll have to, exactly, you got to hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
That's really, really cool. You know, I think that, people are talking about different stuff. I'm going to jump into the QA in just a sec. So if anybody in the chat, I'll throw up this thing one last time. If anybody is out there and wants to ask questions to Ashley about Fame Lady Squad, Andy about or VeeFriends, let us know. Come to meet.blockchainbooze.io. You can ask those questions in the QA, or just come hang out, because in a few minutes, in about 15 minutes, we'll be able to jump into the tables and hang out if you'd like to. This one is a little bit in the weeds, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it, or if it even affects your thinking. You know, Crispin is asking, what are your thoughts on the SEC and CFTC potentially regulating NFTs? Does that scare you? Does that bother you? Do you not even give a crap?
It excites me. I think more regulation is better. It drives more adoption, creates more clarity, which I think drives more adoption. It legitimizes it more.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but there's also them potentially doing things that slow things down. But
For
Ashley,
sure. Macro long term,
yeah.
I'm excited for it. I think they're, from an outsider's perspective, who's not really in the legal space at all, it seems like they're light years away from actually being able to implement real sound strategies around how they're thinking about regulation. But that's just my 2 cents. But I'm open to it.
Ashley, you know, does it come into the thoughts for you guys on Fame Ladies at all?
I mean, I would be naive to say no. I come from a Canadian perspective, which is interesting. Like from a personal level, there's a lot of chatter and things happening in the US, right? Canada's like way behind any of that. But obviously it's important from like the macro community level, how this is going to impact our holders and, you know, future initiatives, etc. But I would agree with Andy. I think generally speaking, while any regulation might create some like short-term disruption or fear, I do think that clarity will help people understand what the parameters are just generally. I think it helps guide innovators to know like what box they're playing in. You know, a lot of people have no idea what's going on with their taxes. I think it's important that people start thinking ahead about a lot of this stuff. And I also think it's, you know, there's a lot of people doing things that they think they can get away with that are clearly probably inappropriate. And people are getting suckered by thinking these things are legit and they likely aren't. Right. And so I do think that I understand this whole like decentralized idealism. But that's just not where we are.
Well, I think the issue is, there's sort of like, I go back and forth on lots of things. Like I think that Andy is part of a team and that has been doing things on the internet for long enough to know like you can't ask for money in certain ways publicly or to invest in things, and know that like what public solicitation is and things like that. But just because they know that they can't do it, and they know that you have to go through lawyers to do it maybe, or something like that, right? I'm assuming Gary knows like what he can and can't say about his companies on the internet in terms of like investor relations and getting in trouble for saying something, because the SEC is annoying about stuff like that. It doesn't mean that what he would say if he said it was a bad thing. In fact, like I think 99% of people who break SEC's laws are, in that respect, are not doing it in a way that anyone would think is actually a bad thing, or is actually something that should be against the law. It's just those rules exist because there used to be people who sit in a corner of a bar and be like, hey, you want to buy my railroad? It's worth this much. And like that was considered public solicitation because you're in a public place talking about your investment. But that's what the rules and laws were meant for. It's fucking stupid for that to be the rules and laws for the internet. So some of those rules have changed, but only if you register properly, only if you raise money from people who are already millionaires, which is offensive and crazy and doesn't make sense. So like there's that side of it. And so like a part of me loves the decentralization, loves like the people who are just completely nutty and just completely just like, screw it. Like we're not even going to pay attention. People in other countries have a leg up on us, right? Maybe not Canada. They're a little behind the US, but there's benefits.
We got love for our Canadian
in Canada, and there are a couple of drawbacks, but I think it's very, very similar. But like, you know, I used to build those same investment platforms for Canadian companies too. So I realized the rules are pretty much the same. But like, then there's DeFi, right? And in DeFi, there are people that just sort of YOLO, and they're doing good shit, and they're doing things that I think objectively, not through my lens, but objectively are just good things. Or if not good things, they're definitely not bad things. They didn't scam anyone. They didn't screw anyone. Like they didn't lie to anyone. Everyone participating is participating out of their own free will, and they're furthering, you know, society, I think, most of the time, or the projects that I like. But still, those projects in the US's eyes or in the SEC's eyes would be totally illegal, which is just mind-blowing to me. In NFTs, there's the weird gray area because there's like, are airdrops some kind of residual? Do they count as, you know, as some kind of something like that? And it's BS because they really don't 99% of the time. But it's still something that people are scared of. And then good projects get scared to do things that are really awesome. But the scammers, it's still not going to stop them. They're willing to do it. So that's this whole thing with the SEC. And we've had CFTC people and SEC people speak at our events and speak on blockchain and booze. And they're all pretty progressive nowadays. They make some crazy statements. The politicians say crazy statements, but I think they're mostly scared of the altcoins and the financial products on top of Ethereum that are putting banks out of business, because the banks are what's paying them to be there more than they are about NFTs at the moment. So the second NFTs are adopted in a meaningful way in the DeFi space, maybe they'll go after them, but they have to be able to separate a Bored Ape or a VeeFriend in their mind from, which are two different things, right? And Fame Lady Squad, which is maybe more like a Bored Ape, like they have to be able to separate that in their mind, because that's like the difference between, I don't know, a song and a baseball card. Like they're just different things. Like, I got another question in here. I would love to get both of your opinions, because both of your start with you, Becky, maybe, because I mean, Ashley, I'm reading Becky and I'm seeing your face and seeing Ashley. I
had the same thing when I saw for the first time, Bored Becky Ashley. I'm like, oh, her name's Ashley. It's not Becky.
That, I think everyone does that. It's pretty funny. So the question revolves around sort of newbies in the space. Are you guys doing anything in relation to, you know, educating people on security practices and things like that? Because Both of the projects have a lot of newcomers into the space. And just this week, we've seen ape holders. People are holding things worth hundreds of thousands of dollars be stolen because of crypto scams, and pretty generic crypto scams that have been around for years. It's not like, oh, some new thing just came out. So are you guys doing anything about sort of educating people? Should we do something about educating people?
It's hard, right? Because it's a moving target and the things that are happening can change from day to day. I mean, there's different things that we do that are like on the small scale. You know, when we hear of trending issues, we try to inform our community through Discord and share certain experiences or things to watch out for on Twitter. We have done a security episode on the podcast. I'm sure that's something we'll probably do again. There's just going to be more things to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's a nice tool though, because when we see certain kind of dialogue happening, now we can kind of link that to people and encourage them to listen and understand certain areas, things they should be thinking about watching for. We do want to put together kind of more of a user guide type of thing for noobs. Some onboarding type of materials, and then things like to watch out for, and just something that's very like easy to understand and kind of up to date, because of course things have changed. And so that's kind of TBD, but it's something we've been talking about. But I think just that like reminder stuff can be quite helpful, and try to interject in some of the silly little things. Like I still, hopefully not forever, not for long, but like I'm still the voice behind the Fame Lady Squad Twitter account, and that's why it's not active right now. But sometimes I'll put out a post and you'll see some of these like scam links like being posted, and obviously always block and report and all that stuff. But I like to highlight some of those things, or if someone commented on our post and then you see that like as quickly as possible, by the way, this is a great example of someone who's probably trying to scam you. And sometimes that real time effort.
Yeah, if you use the word if you use the word MetaMask in a tweet, you just get 18,000 responses with these fake MetaMask
like Google
messages.
Forms stuff.
Yeah, people are mentioning in the chat Discord and stuff. Discord for me is unusable. Like I got my nephew actually one night to go through and help me block all DMs from all the groups that I'm in and stuff like that, and it's still just full of crap, and I need to like spend hours cleaning it and dealing with it all the time, and it just sucks for these scam reasons. Andy, is there anything unique in the VeeFriends community that's different? I think that it is important to kind of constantly remind people because it's so easy, especially when we're like FOMO, constantly clicking. We're used to connecting to websites, so you see that transaction pop up, sign something, and people don't normally look at it. Look at that every time.
There's two things. I would say one, we actually are about to roll out a big program around education for newbies. We're about to launch VeeFriends Series 2 spring around April. And we're excited to, again, onboard more of Gary's community who didn't buy Series 1 that are going to go through the process of, for the first time ever, setting up a MetaMask or setting up a cold wallet or buying Ethereum. So we're going to do that in Zoom sessions, connecting with them. The problem with a lot of the security protocol is that people still will enter their seed phrase into a fake website.
Yeah.
Almost every scam that I've ever seen is because someone gave up their seed phrase on a fake website. And it's just and that goes outside of, please.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be something like, I don't know my seed phrase. I haven't seen my seed phrase till I put it in its secret hiding spot, nowhere near my house and nowhere near my office.
I just don't like the branding of seed phrase. It's your password.
Yeah.
If you went to a website and says, enter your password to your bank account, would you enter your password to your bank? No, I think there'd be a flag that goes off. Even if it was a website that looked like Chase, I think
then you go, let's look at the URL and say,
But like, so that's really the only education from scams insofar as I've seen. And I've seen a good amount of terrible emails where I've had to respond like, hey, I'm very, very sorry this happened to you. There's nothing that I can do. You entered your seed phrase into a website that was a fake OpenSea. So it's just never to put your guard down, and definitely don't trust links from strangers.
And what I was trying to say is you will probably never need to use your seed phrase ever again unless you drop your computer in a lake.
And that's something bad, and you yourself are being proactive for it versus someone else trying to be proactively retrieving it for you.
Yeah, there's no reason to know it, to have it handy, to have it anywhere near you. You need to save it. You need to find a way to keep it extremely safe. But you don't, shouldn't be looking at it ever unless there's an emergency.
This is good. I'm brainstorming. I feel like there's almost two camps of education that we need to do. We need to do Newbie 101, which is an amplified version from everything we've learned from Series 1 for Series 2 for people that own zero crypto that want to get into NFTs. What do I need to know? We're going to do that. And then also I think there's 2.0, which is, okay, I have VeeFriends or I have some Ethereum. I understand the space a little bit. What else can I need to know? There's a lot of interesting stuff happening with like loaning your NFTs, trading NFTs, best practices for that, how to stay safe, how to verify URLs, how to actually now transfer your NFTs to a cold wallet, which would be our recommendation.
Yeah, I think the cold wallet, hot wallet stuff is important. The seed phrase, like you never look at your seed phrase, like unless it's an emergency and you're proactively looking at it, you don't need your seed phrase even handy. And then the one thing is that, and everyone has done this before. If you've been in the space long enough, I've lost money doing it. I know people who've lost much more than me. Whatever. Just double check when you do a transaction. Just look at what the MetaMask thing says. I know you think most of the time it's like gobbledygook and hard to understand what's going on there, but at least when you're sending something, look at the to address you're sending it to, because MetaMask just is a shitty user interface. And sometimes you click on something. Like I clicked on something the other day that said alon.eth. When I clicked on it, it showed a different address. And I know the last few digits of my address because I've been looking at it for years. And so I was like, what the hell? And it was a weird temporary user interface error that they had some issue with ENS, the Ethereum name service. And a bunch of people sent ENS tokens to nowhere, right? But I almost sent some real money that it was supposed to go to my address to just some random like ENS contract. And it would have been impossible. So you just have to be really careful. Yeah, Jim Robinson just shared alon.eth, but instead of the O, he put a 0. By the way, I'll never ask for any money from you. So please don't ever send me anything unless it's something really stupid and a joke. Then I'm happy to receive it and let's have fun. But guys, I want to give you one last chance. I know we're 5 minutes over already. Could you give us each, the number one place to not just follow you, but where to go to see what's going on, the one single link to reach out to you and to follow up if anyone has any questions?
My socials are all my last name, Twitter, Instagram. You can hit me up on Twitter. And
you didn't put your last name on the thing. Hold on. How do you spell your last name again? I'll put it on here.
And I hope to see you in the VeeFriends Discord. I'm hanging out there always in Gen Chat.
How do you spell your last name?
Krainak. Krainak. K-Rain-A-K.
There we go. Did I spell it right?
You got it, man.
Boom. So that's how you follow Andy. Go to Krainak at Krainak and VeeFriends. And Ashley, we got Bored Becky. What else?
Yeah, my handle is at I am Bored Becky, and Fame Ladies is fame_ladies. You can also go to fameladysquad.com. But yeah, Twitter I think is the primary launch into all of my crazy world and Fame Ladies crazy world. So that's a good place to start.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much for participating again, for hanging out. I'm so happy that you joined me today and that we got to meet Andy and that we had you back, Ashley. And to everyone in the community, I know I joked around earlier when that person talked a little trash, but hit me up. We are getting to episode 100. if shit needs to change, let's juggle some stuff around. Let's have some fun. Episode 100, I think I'm going to call on a bunch of you to get up on stage, especially, David, Adele, Crispin, show your face that often, Jim, a lot of you, the regulars, and anybody doing something new. I'm going to call some of you to come up on stage. We're going to do some weird stuff on episode number 100. It's going to be fun. Punk Ape Strong is working on some goofy things, and we'll have some fun together. Brian, you got to get up. Coop, oh my God, everyone. BB Studios. So it's fun. We're 100 weeks in, really 4 weeks away from 2 full years of never missing a week and all that. So we're gonna have some fun, and I can't wait to do it. So give us some love, give us some feedback, tell us what you think should be different, or not. Maybe I had this idea of doing everything with a way higher production value. I had some friends with a production company, and we were talking about it, and somebody else was like, but I really just want to hang and talk trash live and hang with the crew. Like if we do that, then it kind of gets rid of some of that fun. So I need to know this stuff, and we'll come up with. Coop, are you gonna? I think Coop needs to make a song. He's sharing pictures of him holding like an MPC or something with.
I'm excited. We got Becky. We got Ashley. We got to talk about your acoustic performance at VeeCon too.
Yes. I play a mean, shitty campfire guitar. Like I'm good enough to carry that.
I've been hearing some murmurings of marshmallows. So maybe some campfire marshmallows.
If only there was someone in the V organization that could help kind of make something like this happen.
I wish I knew somebody.
I will promise that at Board Becky's acoustic set, Punk Ape Strong will give his guitar to a random VeeFriend and Boring Stone holder that's there watching Becky play. It will be. There'll be a guitar. Punk Ape Strong will hand them a guitar, his guitar with the Bored Ape Hardcore symbol on it and everything. So
we might have to have a jam sesh too. Let's just say that.
Hey,
that's important.
Look, this guitar can be yours. This guitar can be yours if you find out where the secret location of the Bored Becky acoustic concert happens. So here we go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are online, come to meet.blockchainbooze.io and hop at a table, turn on your camera or microphone or both. And somebody did already win it, Coop, but that was the Genesis #0 guitar. There will be more. And they look different. You notice in his videos, his guitars constantly are looking different now. So, he has more than one. He's like a country music singer that gives their guitars, like the old fashioned dudes, like Johnny Cash used to do that. He'd have a recording session with someone. Punk Ape Strong is a throwback to that, except for much shittier guitars.
You'll have a roadie back there with a selection of shitty guitars.
That's right. That's right. All right, everyone. See you at the tables. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Andy. It was awesome hanging.
Thank you so much.
Thanks both. See you soon.